Alright, my YouTube is live.
Is there card in here?
Press it. Sorry, hold on.
Eh?
No card here.
No card.
It's the live already. Where you can go?
No, we cannot go without recording audio. But that last one, I guess this body. Good morning, viewers, and welcome to today's edition of Sahara TV's Breakfast Show. And with us in the studio to analyze the newspapers, the headlines, and the issues confronting Nigerians and issues trending across various platforms today is public affairs analyst Comrade Shini Ajay. It's a pleasure to have you on Sahara TV.
It's always a pleasure.
All right, let's take a first look at some of the headlines making the stories that are actually making headlines this morning from various newspapers across the country. First, we're going to start with the Daily Trust newspaper. It comes with the main headline, families cry out as food prices hit rooftop. Bags of rice, maize, beans, sugar, garri on weekly increase. Inflation eroding capital base, traders. Experts seek suspension of tariff. Others, Kogi, Lagos, Bayelsa, pay more. Inflation hits 24.08%. We'll be going to the the Nigerian Tribune next, and it comes with the main headline, amid subsidy question, FG says no petrol price increase to maintain current pricing without reversing the regulation policy. Presidency say labor strike threat premature. Inflation rate hits 24.08% as forest scarcity bites harder. CPPE wants FG to tweak policies, give producers, citizens relief. We also have this rider that's YCE to Tinubu hardship getting deeper. Implements pragmatic measures now. FG files 20 fresh charges against Emefiele. Drops firearms case. Court restrains DSS from arresting brother. We'll move to the next newspaper, and that's the Business Day. With the main rider, fresh pressure on Tinubu as power sector nears collapse. Poor can't breathe as inflation chokes. Price growth nears 18-year high of 24.08%. Our next newspaper is the New Telegraph. With the main rider, no plan to reintroduce fuel subsidy increase pump price. Tinubu. The next newspaper that will be highlighting this morning is the Guardian newspaper. FJ in deregulation dilemma as 24% inflation worsens poverty. Fresh concerns over cost, relevance of NY scheme in lean times. These are the headlines on the Guardian newspaper. The next newspaper is the Vanguard with the main inflation hits 24.08% as Nigerians struggle with higher food prices. Pension funds investment in equity grows by 36% to 1.4 trillion. FG files fresh 20-count charges against Emefiele in Abuja. Will maintain current petrol price without subsidy reversal. Tinubu. Harsh economy. Buhari spent 96% of national income on debt, says Oshiomhole. And the final newspaper that we'll be highlighting this morning is the Punch newspaper with the rider. Federal government arraigns Emefiele. Allies Thursday. CBN procurement director, 6 others to testify against ex-Apex Bank governor. Suspended CBN governor allegedly bought 100 vehicles through employees. These are the main headlines that are currently on the Nigerians' newspapers this morning. Shini Ajayi, you've had across the newspapers, poverty, the inflation rate has hit an 18-year all-time high of 24.04%. Let's get to an assessment of that. Is that
First and foremost, that figure is questionable because what they did is to lump up all prices in their capture zone and then look at the variations and then get an average. When you put now to people buying food, you cannot say it's 24%. To folks who need to go on buses or public transport, you cannot say that's 24%. So we are looking at a far higher percentage as regards, what is necessary for a human being to survive on. So in that sector, the survival sector, it is far higher. You are talking about close to 80% or even more than that. So so we should not so much trust that the figures that are being put forward. They may want to put it forward, 24% to try calm people down, but essentially there is a state of emergency for overwhelming majority of the population as we speak. As regards they not having the means to meet to survive. So you are seeing I don't know whether you people notice, more people work, as a means of subsidizing their transport costs right now, and more people go hungry these days than as a means of trying to survive. But essentially, that 24% is not realistic. It's not factual. It's more in the realm of 80 and above. So let's put the ball on the ground.
all this actually boils down from the removal of the fuel subsidy, and this has impacted Nigeria's economy and so far. You've highlighted some of the noticeable effects, and Nigerians are getting impacted because of this fuel subsidy removal, and yet there are still palpable fears in it.
It's necessary for us
going to be another fuel price.
Yeah, but it's necessary for us to get the lexicon right. Let's get our terminologies right. First and foremost, when dealing with a big lie, about subsidy, it's necessary to so that the public can be well educated. First, there's no subsidy on the Nigerian fuel. There has never been subsidy, on Nigerian fuel. There's a difference between taxing fuel and you actually having subsidizing fuel. So they people have, bastardized the use of that terminology. Nigerian fuel, is just like saying you are subsidizing gari in Nigeria. If you are saying you are subsidizing fuel in Nigeria, it's a highly profitable sector. Last year alone, Nigeria made over 40 billion, US dollars from that sector, from petroleum. And then you put it by the side, how much did they use to import their fuel? The whole cost was placed at around 7 billion US dollars. So when you do the maths, you see that, well, this is a country that will even afford to give people fuel for free, concretely speaking. But then that didn't happen. People still paid significantly for all the products that they have. So let's, from that point of view, first and foremost, you see that the question of subsidy is not what we are talking about here. What you are talking about here is taxing people, hiking prices. That's not subsidy. That's not subsidy, and that's why and then deregulating the entire thing, bringing in private sector. Why do you need to bring private sector into that arrangement? You bring a private sector, who will now come in to go and buy, the fuel, from abroad, source it, from abroad. But nobody talked about how they are going to get the forex, in order for the cycle to, to continue. So you now have this crisis on which, from what they buy, because absolutely, when you look at some things, there's no refinery globally that accepts naira. So people need to get some. There's no refinery. It's in dollars. Where do you get the dollars from? You get it from the commodity itself. It's crude, and Nigeria is not. We are using far less. The crude that is required to manage the economy is far less than the crude that is being sold. So you have this arrangement. It's quite a funny arrangement. So it's a profitable sector, but what is happening now, is in line with the dictates of the IMF and World Bank to actually get, the people more, impose more taxes on the people, and reduce, the purchasing power. That's essentially what is going on here. So that is the crisis we are actually facing right now. So when you put things in proper perspective, it's necessary for us to know, first and foremost, please let's put it aside. What you're having is hike in taxes, hike in price, not that anybody is subsidizing anybody.
Now, it's been suggested that President Tinubu's economic policy has lacked proper implementation strategies. Could you elaborate on any specific instances or areas where implementations have fallen short so far since the advent of this regime?
Well, it's not just President Tinubu's policy, because we put all the 4 participants, key participants, all of them had the same economic policy. All of them, had their manifesto. That is the Peter Obi, Atiku, Tinubu, and even Kwakwanso. These 4 elements, the parties actually have the same, manifesto. And the manifesto was guided by, the dictates of IMF and co, which says, all this funny stuff about subsidy, about privatization, the same thing about floating the naira and things like that. So, it's like, anyhow you cut a head of a goat and separate it, there's no way the goat is going to live. So that's essentially what you are seeing here. So it's not a matter of, this is the consequence of, you deregulating, because the regulation, they want to make it as if it's a fanciful word. It's not, it's anarchy. This is the consequence of anarchy, and hiking, prices, and having free flow, or free for all. This is the consequence. So there's no how you are going to do it, it's not going to actually be any better. How do you want to do it? Cut the whole head of a goat is going to give you this. You say you want to, quote and unquote, hike price of fuel. What is going to be the consequence? This is what you're going to get.
Now, in hindsight, what are some of the key factors that you feel contributed to the failure of this government's economic policy, and were there any unforeseen challenges that arose?
One of the problems that we have is that in Nigeria, let's have a declaration that you don't have nationalist economists. Because what you have today is everybody repeating what is being said on Bloomberg or being said on, the days of the Professor Luku is over, where you could still see some elements having some nationalist orientation to say that no, you can't just be dictating all these so-called figures or lines of action, that we too need to have our own line of action. You don't have that anymore. And this generation are actually learning the tough way, seeing the realities of what the old generation saw, why they stood against all this, what some of us tag as mispolicies as dictated by the imperialists. And don't forget, all these policies do not actually originally emanate from here. They actually come from outside. Even the departing ambassador, commissioner, high commissioner, UK commissioner when leaving was saying on air was saying when the next government was what withdraw subsidy, deregulate, merge merge floating the naira. Which some of us, there's nothing called floating. You want to deregulate. You want to devalue the currency. That's what you've done. And the way they have done it, crudely has undermined the economy. To those who profit from it, which is the multinationals, those holding the Nigerian foreign reserves and those controlling the economy, essentially. It's profitable for them. For the economy as a whole, it's on a slide, downward slide, a ruthless, vicious downward slide. I don't know whether people understand that as we speak. They say that the projected growth rate for Nigeria is supposed to be 3% GDP. The GDP, as we speak, as of last year, was about $499 billion US dollars. So if you are saying 3%, you are not expecting nothing more than 500 or so billion US dollar, in overall. But as we speak, all that figure is in the dustbin, because right now, with the devaluation of the currency by close to 100%, everything is still in. They forget that everything is still good. The calculation is done in naira, and then the conversion is done on the basis of the exchange rate. So when you do that right now, the GDP as we speak right now has crashed by more than 50%. So by the time the next figures for next year will come, for this year will come out, later, you will see that we are already in a deep recession as we speak. So the GDP is going to be around the thing of about $300 billion US dollars or so. So from the biggest economy in Africa to that's what this deregulation, devaluation and co. Do the mathematics. All the corporations that declared, their end of the year results within the past, with the exception of a few from MTN, or the multinationals. In fact, one of the multinationals has, peak rate, that's Glasgow. But when you look at all their results, all of them were declaring losses on forex terms. Because when you look with the calculation was before May 29 was 406 to 468 naira to a dollar. But as we speak, it is now, in the realms of 781. So in the other, and this thing about, we want to merge the black market, quote and parallel, the black market, and that we want to have one exchange rate is a lie. It's not possible. That's why they call it parallel. Parallel lines don't meet. So the more you devalue the official exchange, the more the unofficial exchange goes high. So you are seeing that, and it's a never-ending decimal. Then you now add that, people have to go and buy fuel, import fuel. They should go to the same market. So it is that process it's a chain reaction. If you know what is called a chain reaction, it is going to further depress the economy the more, and it will never work. That's the objective reality. So essentially, when you put all these things into, this is why we say that probably, we should close the departments of and the faculty of social sciences. You say this, because you don't have economists who could actually put all these things in a holistic, model and understand that what you are doing in this sector is going to damage the entire economy. That is the objective reality of what they are doing. The devaluation has smashed the GDP of the country. If it could degrade a Dangote, until they did so, I don't know how they did it in their hopes to bring it back up, in terms of ranking. The general economy, Nigerian economy, has been devalued on the basis of this wicked program.
You can actually join this conversation by calling in, because this program is actually live. The number to call is 0704 9941 413. That's the number to call, and if you're calling from outside of Nigeria, please add +234. Again, the number to call is right there on the screen, 0704 9941 413. Now, let's get back to Sheni. Sheni, I mean, looking at the broader context, how does this failure of this economic policy impact Nigeria's standing in the global economics landscape?
I've already emphasized one thing. Right now on the African continent, from being, the biggest economy, because essentially when they use the GDP to do the grading, the Nigerian economy right now is going to be number 3. It's going to be below Algeria. It's going to be below, except South Africa also does an insane devaluation of its currency by close to 100%. You are not going to have that kind of crash. So there's a lot of production going on in Nigeria. People, I think MTN made about 170 billion. To some people, this is supposed to be a huge amount. But when you put it in dollar terms, that when compared to the amount they made last year, that's why they declared it as a loss in forex. So it's gone down.
Now,
and it's a chain reaction.
No, that is okay. Let's get this call. We have a caller on the line. Hello, caller. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Good morning.
Good morning. Could you please speak louder? What's your name and where are you calling from?
Good morning.
Good morning. We can hear you.
Okay. I'm on live on the Sahara live something that you are doing. Excuse me. Until we are ready to fight for what is right, there is nowhere we are going. You can see that in case the same thing was introduced, and there was a riot and protest and all the stuff throughout, and the thing has been reversed. This first subsidy stuff has been reversed. I've been listening to the digital. I can get all the analysis that all these things are fixed. In fact, it is only in this kind of our country, which is Nigeria, that you reward governments that have failed woefully. If it is in another same place, APC, I don't want to mention the name of the party, they cannot come back with what we went through for the past 8 years. I don't know how we want to get back on the street. You see, it is just crazy that everything is going down. I feel like this is it not the same country that we've been? If you listen to the guest, we can reason from the analysis he gave. And that is the reality. That is the truth. But because of this, our country, this ethnicity and religion stuff, it has painted us and messed up a lot of things that people don't even really think nothing is the case. So I don't know how we're going to do it. We don't have these labor people. They are useless. You can imagine labor is saying that until if they want to increase. Is this one normal? Even the 600 or 580 that we are having, until we rise up and go back to the state like what the Kenya did. The Kenya people, they just return their first subsidy. In as much as we know that the subsidy has to go. Even subsidy is a fraud. This same government has said the same thing during Jonathan time. So I don't know. We need to come out. We need to come out on the street, every one of us. Nigeria cannot work. in this way in the next another 100 years until people think the right thing. It's either we go back regional or we come on the street to demand for the benefit of democracy. That's why a lot of people are supporting all this military stuff done around Niger and all this and stuff, because they are not getting the honest leaders from the other. Hello, am I still on?
Yeah, you're still on. Please go ahead.
So, and we the youth, me, I am over 50 now. We cannot reason again because they make sure that property are tainted in the heart of us, in lot of people. Even they don't even think right. You can imagine all the people who voted for this government. We are just in 3 years, in 3 months, and we see how far it has go. And you can imagine all the cows that we plunge ourselves into in just less than 100 days. This is crazy. People need to rise up. We need to come on the street. It is because we don't have organized labor. These our labor people, they are fake. I've never seen something so drastic like this before. They did it in Kenya, and this is what we have to do. We need to call people. We have to come back on the street, no matter where it is. Me, I'm a Yoruba man. They will say, I didn't even vote for Tinubu. Because I can say, if somebody can vote who is saying he's not worried and we know what we went through for the past 8 years, I don't think it's number for somebody to vote for that kind of thing. Right. And there are a lot of things like that. So that is just my contribution. We need to come out. The analysis they get is just the simple truth. All these things are big. Nigerians are supposed to be getting this for themselves, free of charge. Mm-hmm. Are we getting from the government? This is the only thing a common man is getting. And this thing has triggered everything: food, electricity, power, and all the stuff. Even food is what the common man needs. And transportation, a lot of people will walk. I have 3 today food. I can only use one. And the one I'm using is the one that I consume to eat fuel. And I don't even go out to do this. They get just said that they want our purchasing power to fall. It's just crazy that we are in a country. Even the Niger, you see the Nigerians, they want their military. It is because things are not working and they are ready to die. The same thing happened in Kenya, but Nigeria, we just shut up and we just took our mind and say, let's go better like the last. This is just, let me give other people opportunity.
All right, thank you so much. We appreciate your insightful analysis and your comment. Shani, you've had I guess, I mean, the caller there, and he clearly outlined certain things, and I would like to get your reactions on what he has actually said. First, let's take it from the bottom. He referred to the Kenya situation where the Kenya government reintroduced fuel subsidy in order to curb soaring prices of petrol, kerosene, and diesel in the country. And that development comes after months of violent anti-government protests over the burden of high living costs. The caller also mentioned the fact that Nigerians need to rise up, and the failures of the NLC labor leadership. Let's get your reactions on that.
Well, I think the caller got it right, but it's necessary to also understand that, there's nothing wrong with Nigerians, because I try to emphasize this point. Human beings tend to have, some standard way of responding to issues. Right now, we saw what the Kenyans did. It took months of, protests. And of course, the objective reality that the policies were backfiring on the entire economy also was a factor. But the rebellion of the people, the strikes and independent actions, is a major factor. In Nigeria, you now have a situation where, the youth are still stunned because youth are, thanks to confusion, injected, various sectors. As I said earlier, you have 4 major parties. You've had one, which people are saying, oh, I am this, I am that, I am obedient, I am disobedient, I am, creating a lot of confusion. And you say, okay, what is your policy? My policy, everybody from Atiku, Tinubu, Peter Obi, I am for withdrawal of oil subsidy, I am for merger of, so it has I am for merger of floating the naira, and all of it. So people are still stunned that what is happening. And then you have labor leadership, who throughout the election didn't make a single word. And, this campaign for this misinformation and disinformation of fuel fuel subsidy. It didn't start today. It started, within the past, 2-3 years after the 2018 or so that they said they've withdrawn subsidy and things like that. But we saw a sustained, misinformation and disinformation campaign back from the media, misleading people. There's one, even some people, the day fuel, the prices were hiked. So many people, were even, when it says some people even felt subsidy was a woman. One evil witch somewhere that most people don't know. So they confuse them. All these people in the media, we have seen all these people wearing tie and things like that, saying they are analysts. They are analyzing nothing and they misled people. So people are still in shock as we speak. And I will refer you to what happened in 2020. 2020 by October, so people could no longer take it. After months of COVID or forced COVID holiday, we'll give them palliative. There was no palliative. Give them. Right now, you are seeing people are still in shock and they are assessing and they are seeing their realities. Nothing teaches people more than reality. People are saying how much was bag of rice May 29. How much is it today? Today is like May 29 is like it's like 80 years ago. Because it's just the regime is just like about 80 days old. But it's like 80 years ago that we had May 29th. So people will say, May 29th, Naira was 400 and something. Today, it's now much. Those who fly, who want to jackpot, they'll say before May, how much was flight? Today you are talking about 6 million, 3 million. Huge amounts. So how much? And then what palliative are these people offering? So you could see that say, okay, we will give you 8,000 naira, per household. How you are going to determine that, we don't know. They will give you 3,000 buses. The people who want that 3,000 buses to a population of 200 million, so 3,000, 50, because 2020 seats, or will go gas. This week, gas is going up. All drinks, everything has gone up. So what are we saying? So this reality and the confusion, is the confusion both from the leadership of Labour, we come from the activists area, and gone are the days where we will cover the leadership of Labour, or we will have to tell
What
people,
exactly is the problem with the leadership of Labour?
Betrayal. Both from the topmost leadership, to even so-called civil society, who come on space and create distractions. Let me give you an example. Right now when people are talking about go back to the price of petrol go back to the price 2000 to go back to May 29 prices. You see people coming now. You see what we want is gas. What we want is electric energy or something like that. And then we ask, how much is your electric bus? One electric bus is about $400,000. So how do you mobilize that to Gombe? How do people in Karademoda or the people in Boko, how do they have access to this? Not to talk about people in Abeokuta and things like that. So it's all these things, they introduce all sorts of distractions. But you see, this reality of price and hardship has a way of radicalizing people on an accelerated basis. And when the people come back out, you won't like, all these folks will not like what they are going to see. That one I can tell anybody for free, because you are building, a monster. You are collapsing, the entire economy, collapsing people's lives. In Kano, rice mills are folding up because they can no longer afford, to operate. So what do you want? Even everywhere. So how do we now? This is self-induced collapse.
The number to call is right there on the screen. It's 0704 9941 413 if you want to be part of this program. You can call in, and if you're calling from outside Nigeria, please just remember to add +234 704 9941 413. We still have our guest in house, Commissioner Sheni Ajayi. Now, Sheni, what alternatives or adjustments could have been considered to mitigate the negative consequences of this failed economy?
There is none. You can't. There is none. First, the first thing is, why do you need to hike price in the first instance? Go back to status quo. you know, if you are sincere about any palliative or you are sincere about human lives. You know, we saw what the Naira redesign, you know, did. It killed off close to 20 trillion Naira worth of value in the Nigerian economy. You know, it was an experiment. There was no basis for it. This policy, there is no basis for it. The Nigerian economy, if you put it side by side with the United States economy, you can't compare them. The United States economy is in more trouble than the Nigerian economy. The debt to GDP ratio of US is far exceeds that of Nigeria. Look at all the data is there. The United States government is owing 32 trillion, you know, and its income is about 4 trillion per annum. So you can compare, you know, how much they are really getting and how long it will take for them to actually solve that economic crisis. That of Nigeria is not like that, you know. So you are not on fire, you know, on like what they want us to believe. You know, like I was saying, I heard earlier when you were saying, when somebody Shimole was saying, you are using 96%, you are using blah 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 percent. They scare people with figures. They have been scaring us with figures, but they don't scare out. But they don't conspicuously mixing with those figures the actual, you know, facts as regards how much they are actually making or the status of the Nigerian debt itself. The debt to GDP ratio of Nigeria is actually in the realms of about 37%, comparable to that one of Norway. When you put things concretely, and in Norway they are still having free education. So don't come and they can't scare us with figures. And a large chunk of even the debts are fictitious. That if a serious regime takes power, you are going to evaluate it, and you will see that a lot of these things are fraud. You know, a lot of, you know, spare the rod, spoil the child. That's what we are actually having. You know, the Yorubas will say that if you do not catch the thief will catch you. That was what has actually happened in the Nigerian situation right now. The country is being enslaved, you know, because they refuse to take, you know, the so-called corrupt people down. You know, so rather they now enslave everybody.
Now, moving forward, what lessons can be learned from this experience in terms of designing and implementing effective economic policies in Nigeria?
First and foremost, I think we should say that all these folks that come on space and wearing ties and saying that they are speaking economic, as economic analysts, all of them being schooled from IMF and I think we should declare them bankrupt. That's when you don't need those kind of people. You know, there can't be growth in Nigeria without a plan and without regulation and without common ownership. And I will make reference to Chapter 2 of the Constitution. I'm not going to be too legalistic, you know, I don't want to be too legal, but even then, those people who crafted that Constitution, even with its faults, they accepted the reality that the commanding heights of the economy must be collectively owned. You know, what we have today is not that. You know, there is no private sector in Nigeria. People should stop misleading, you know, themselves. You know, you don't have private capitalists capable of leading the society. The society needs to actually guide itself. The little progress we had, at least some of us saw in this country, you know, was due to active public participation. The little industries we had, manufacturing and co in the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s was due to that. So people need to actually, you know, dust up, you know, what actually worked, you know, and how to look at how to actually upgrade it to the second level. We need a national plan, you know, we need regulations. We cannot afford to float our currency. We need strict currency. We cannot afford to preserve foreign reserves. You know, what are you reserving? You know, you need to liquidate them by using them to bring in industries into the country. We are not, the policy of foreign direct investment, which is another policy everybody, you know, in a normal climate, they should, if you put that forward, you know, where there is, because what we saw in the past period was people, you know, selling toxins to people and calling it as solutions. You know, can Nigeria afford foreign direct investment? With what money will you pay foreign direct investment? Why, you know, where is your own national investment? when you are saying you are looking for foreigners to come and develop, will foreigners develop Abekuta for us, or develop Yanapaja, or develop our steel? We need steel, we need ship, we need all these things. So we need to have, know that, look, all these policies must be thrown where they belong, in the dustbin. There are hard decisions to be taken. And what are those hard decisions? The hard decisions, because it's easy for some of these folks to say there should be sacrifice. They are not prepared to sacrifice anything. So let us start from sacrificing that there is no basis for any child to go abroad, for school when you have universities in this country. Our forex is not for that. Cancel that. There's no basis for you to travel abroad for medical care. Cancel that one. There's no basis for, for all this luxurious food that you are importing and lifestyle that you are. Cancel all those ones. All the forex should actually have a planned, plan. We need factories. Factories are being sold abroad now. The country needs to focus on importation of capacity. If anybody is going to be sponsored, to study something abroad, it must be the guarantee that you are coming back and you are studying something that is missing in the, that will be of benefit to the Nigerian economy and to the Nigerian people. So you need to have a change of focus, and what you are having right now, where you are saying you are looking for non-existing capitalists to come and invest in your country, in a world that, do you know how much the globe is owing? We have a 300 trillion, the world is owing itself $300 trillion. That's the debt, the global, when you add up all the debt, So together you are having, which is about 300% of the entire GDP on the planet. So you have a crisis. Everybody has crisis. So nobody's going to come and develop this place for you. You must go on a plan. The Awolowos, give it to them. They have their deficiencies, but they had the Odua investment. They built banks. They built using public funds, for the collective. That was how they could raise the needed economic base to implement some of the welfare programs. But it needs to be escalated, this time around, in order to get, with a population of 200 million, should not have business with all what we are seeing, the current crisis. We're supposed to have food guarantee. We're supposed to have job guarantees. We are supposed to have several things are supposed to be there. If there's no logic to unemployment, I used to tell people, there's no logic, because the tax to be done is quite enormous. And, if you distribute all the jobs, you get, you don't have enough teachers, enough doctors, enough cleaners, enough traffic controllers, enough security. The jobs are just too much. But we need to have a major reset, in consciousness to get all these things done.
Now, the number still to call is right there on the screen, and if you are in Nigeria, the number to call is 0704. You'll find the number right there on our screen there, 99414113. And if you are calling from outside Nigeria to be part of this program, please add +234 704 99414113. That's the number to call if you wish to be part of this program and comment on what's the development. Now, Shady, what role should Labour as well as civil society play with regards to taking a stand on the long-term sustainability of, petrol pricing and in Nigeria, and any proposed solutions to ensure stabilization?
Well, to Labour, first and foremost, there's a need to backtrack from the current lines, has been followed by Ajiru and Sifo. You cannot have two masters. It's either you serve the working people and youth, or you stand with those that are destroying the economy. So, and I think the choice is left to them, and also to the civil society. We need to be more proactive and more political. The days of which the space is going to be, because what we have seen, you have a situation for which you had a monologue in the last election. There was no balance. This one will say, I want to hike fuel price. I don't want to use their terms, withdraw subsidy. Say, I want to hike fuel price. That's what they say concretely. using all sorts of whatever. The other one will say, I want to do the same thing. The other one will say, I want to do the same thing. Nobody said, I'm going to do the other, or, concretely speaking, that, could pose, that could bust all these lines. People could, if it occurred, people may not take note of it. But it's necessary for this engagement. But it's good that this objective reality, because some of us are calling out all those elements that were saying this is the way to go. That, okay, now that people are pursuing, and then again, there's those who want to say this is not how that they stole their mandate, they stole their manifesto. Nobody should, as I just now say that, the consequence of what is happening now, if another personnel is there, that it will be otherwise. That won't let us dump that idea. This is exactly what will happen if you can implement all these policies that are actually anti-people. We have declared these policies anti-people since the day they were imposed on this country. And people need to have the history, as, of all these things. So people need to actually have these amendments in their thoughts, and know that, look, we can't go this way. This is what is not sustainable. This is exactly what is not sustainable. After imposing all these evil programs on people, you now allocate billions to yourself. Less than 500 of you, 70 billion. So, this is the objective reality. When they say it's going to be tough, it's going to be tough, the person saying it's going to be tough, he's not prepared to sacrifice, I don't know, the list of their privilege. They are not prepared, but they want the mass 250 million people to live in pains. It's evil as far as some of us are concerned.
Let's just quickly take some of the comments that we have on our Facebook. I think this is Ufezime Nelson. I think Ebola Tinubu have done the worst now, and the people who helped rig them into power now regret it big time. When Omoyele Sowore was advising Nigerians never to vote for political criminals, APC, PDP, LP, many Nigerians call Sowore names, but here we are today. Only Sowore can bring us out of this mess. And revolution now is the way forward. That's from Ufezime Nelson Ubi. Weisband says, the monster of neoliberalism they are building will be their grave diggers spinning. Workers and youth must rise in a unity to lead revolutionaries. We cannot continue like this with complete disasters like the Tinubu regime. We also unequivocally say no to war. That's so we see our government madness. So, I mean, these are some of the comments we've received from Facebook. What are your reactions to this? Nigeria seems to be fuming at this point in time.
Yeah, people.
And what's the level of consciousness at this point in time with regards to Nigerians actually standing up for their rights?
Nigerians would at a particular point in time have to come out, with or without, the leadership of Labour playing its historic role. Because I don't know, it's concretely, how people can move on. I don't know how it can be done. They just have to come out and fight for their rights. But the key thing remains for them to have a sense of direction as regards what they want. I have an understanding of why this crisis, exists in the first instance, and that will guide them, and that's a tool against all these reactionary distractions along ethnic lines or religious lines that some people want to infuse into it. The current leadership of Labour and some key folks in the civil society themselves will be under enormous pressures as time goes on to actually start taking a more principled lines. If they don't, alternative leadership are bound to emerge. That was what happened. That was exactly what happened with NSAS. So it's an inevitable process. When you do all these things, you are going to provoke, people to stand up and demand for their rights. It's too intense, and you are not going to have a minimum wage. That because people have been talking about 200 naira minimum wage, I laugh. If you are going to have anything as much as 50,000, you should consider yourself lucky.
Now, let me also get your reactions on some of the positions of the government's spokesperson, for example, Ngelali actually came out to make a statement yesterday on the official position of the presidency, stating that there is no increase in prices at this time and that Mr. President is convinced, based on the information before him, that we can maintain current pricing without reversing our deregulation policy by swiftly cleaning up existing inefficiencies within the midstream and downstream petroleum sector. I mean, this is the official position of the government. They are not going back with regards to reversing its deregulation policies, and that they are looking at ensuring a cleanup in the existing inefficiencies within the both the downstream and the upstream petroleum. I mean, what's your reaction to this?
Look, when a ghost is haunting you, and you put yourself in a state of self-denial, you'll be having this kind of engagements. Because if this policy was the magic wand, when it was declared on May 29th that subsidy is gone, you will notice that there's no day passes by without them being forced to talk about this issue of quote and unquote subsidies, quote and unquote. No day goes by within the past 80 days or so. There's no day that they will not consistently come back to this one, trying to explain. So like this term they say on air now, that you will explain tire. So long the crisis is still there, so long you never address the substance, if you continue, they thought deregulation is never a solution to the problem we have at hand. So if it was never a solution and then you are enforcing it, the problem continue to escalate. That is what you are actually seeing right now. The energy needs has crashed. It crashed not because there is no need to power the society, but because they can't afford it. According to their data, Nigeria used to import, as I may, used to import, processed fuel about 205,000 barrels. I don't know. Today, it's crashed to less than 100,000 barrels. I've forgotten the relative to what, but that's as regards Naira. It's on Nairametrics because I follow all the economic pages. So you have a significant crash. So essentially, the so-called amount that, because people there are some people that we shouldn't allow to get away, with some of these things. Somebody, we are going to make some savings. No savings have been made. No savings can be made. Two things. No savings has been made. No savings can be made from this kind of turbulence, because people cannot sustain, this arrangement because they simply don't have the money. So underneath, and that has effect on the general economy, because they'll start winding down their product. If we have not seen this before, it's a different thing. We saw this exactly in the 1980s when these policies were imposed in the first instance. And then there's the policy, you see, once you do it, it's going to be El Dorado. It never did. They did the same thing in Ghana until when the CDs got to 10,000 CDs to $1. Before many of them their eyes could be clear. They started from 1 CD to $1. It's now 10,000 CD. 2007. Then they now said, let us reverse back. Let us convert 10,000 CDs to 1 CD. But then they continue with the same policy. Today, it is 11 CDs to $1. But when you say, okay, 11 new CDs to $1, when you do the maths properly, you see that, okay, if it was 10,000, CDs to $1, old CDs, how much is it now? It means it's 100,000 CDs to $1. So there's no end to it. It's a chain reaction. If you don't want to call something a chain reaction, do it a billion times, it will give you this result. No country can develop with these mispolicies. I can tell you that one for free.
Sorry. Another respondent also said that over the past 8 years, certain issues went unaddressed, leading to several misdemeanors. President Tinubu is now in charge and he aims to reposition Nigeria for the better. We urge you to give him the necessary time to implement the changes he envisions. I mean, that's been a call for.
If we choose nobody has obstructed anybody, from performing. Nobody can. It's what you said you want to do. And the first day, fire in the mountain. Second day, fire on the mountain. It's now just less than 80 days, fire on the mountain. So it's people's lives you are talking about, you know, and then at times we see all these elements who, as I said earlier, who are not prepared to make any sacrifice for anything, telling people to, they are coming to this, your studio, I saw people walking, you know, even myself, we have to walk, you know, to get to our destinations. So it's not going to work. Is it that, okay, after all these things, even right now, those that are supposed to import cannot source the dollar? Well, is there a bureau de change in London where you carry your naira to and then they convert it to you for? It's not possible. You are not addressing the fundamentals. They have not addressed it. So it's not a matter of people not giving anybody anything. The economy belongs to all of us, you know. But you are seeing that, look, what is being implemented is being hailed by some folks, the United States and all these other countries, all the other agencies, but it's being condemned locally by the people. A bag of rice was, as at May 29, how much was it? Today it's in the 50s. So this is how we can classify that, okay, for how long can this be sustained? This is what is not sustainable.
Well, thank you so much, Sheni Ajayi, for your insightful analysis. And that's the much we can take from our program today. And we hope that you will be able to join us again next week as we continue to look at issues concerning Nigeria. And we hope to see you again. Thank you so much.